Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Council station, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at the massive structure. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Federation, and he still felt amazed by the sight. The station orbited Kepler Prime, a neutral world that served as the meeting place for all member species. The council chamber was huge, with seating for over 200 delegates. Jake had learned to recognize most of the alien species by now. The tall, blue-skinned Zenthi always sat in the front rows, their crystalline eyes reflecting the chamber lights. Behind them, the bird-like avians perched on special platforms, their feathers shifting colors with their moods. The aquatic collective members stayed in their water-filled pods, speaking through translation devices that turned their clicks and whistles into words. Today's session dealt with trade routes through the Outer Rim. Jake listened as delegate after delegate argued about shipping lanes, tariffs, and security concerns. The mechanical synthesis wanted exclusive rights to asteroid mining. The crystalline hegemony demanded better protection for their merchant vessels. Each proposal faced hours of debate, with amendments and counter-proposals flying back and forth. Jake checked his schedule. In 30 minutes, he would present humanity's request for expanded trading rights in the beta sector. He expected the usual process: lengthy discussions, committee reviews, and probably weeks of negotiation before reaching any decision. When his turn came, Jake approached the central podium. The chamber's translation system picked up his words and converted them into the various languages of the Federation members. "Honored delegates," Jake began, "humanity requests permission to establish 3 new trading posts in the beta sector. These posts would serve both human and alien merchants, providing fuel, supplies, and repair services." He activated the holographic display, showing detailed plans for the trading posts. The blueprints included facilities designed to accommodate different alien species with varying atmospheric and gravitational requirements. "The estimated cost is 47 million credits," Jake continued. "Earth's government will provide initial funding, with operational costs covered by usage fees. We project the post will become profitable within 18 months. Jake waited for the questions. Usually, delegates would ask about environmental impact, local employment, security measures, and dozens of other details. The Zenthi, in particular, were known for their thorough examination of every proposal. Instead, something strange happened. The chamber fell silent for only a few seconds. Then, delegate after delegate began signaling their approval. The Zenthi representative, Veltar, was the first to speak. "The Zenthi Collective approves this request," Veltar announced. "The proposal appears well-planned and beneficial to all parties." Jake blinked in surprise. No questions about permits? No concerns about competition with existing facilities? The avian delegate Chirp Song of Wind ruffled her golden feathers. "The Confederacy also approves. Human trading posts have proven reliable and fair in past ventures." One by one, the other species added their approval. The aquatic collective Zhao representative made a series of clicks that the translator converted to enthusiastic agreement. Even the mechanical synthesis, usually the most difficult to convince, approved without hesitation. Within 15 minutes, Jake's proposal had passed. With unanimous support, he stood at the podium confused and somewhat alarmed. In 3 years of diplomatic service, he had never seen any proposal approved so quickly. Jake returned to his seat next to Ryan Foster, his cultural attaché. Ryan was a young man who had joined the diplomatic corps straight from university, eager to work with alien species. "That was weird," Ryan whispered. "Very weird," Jake agreed. "Remember the last time the Zenthi approved anything in less than 6 hours?" "Never," Ryan replied. "They spent 3 days debating a request to change the coffee blend in the station cafeteria." Jake watched the rest of the session with growing unease. A proposal from the crystalline hegemony for new mining rights faced 2 hours of intense questioning. The avians' request for protected shipping lanes sparked a heated debate about territorial boundaries. The aquatic collective's proposal for deep space research stations was sent to committee for further review. Only human proposals seemed to sail through without resistance. After the session ended, Jake gathered his files and headed for the exit. Delegate Veltar intercepted him in the corridor. The Xanthi was nearly 8 feet tall, with skin that looked like polished sapphire and eyes that glowed with inner light. "Ambassador Morrison," Veltar said, "may I speak with you privately?" Jake followed the Xanthi to a quiet alcove overlooking the station's main corridor. Ships continued to arrive and depart, their lights streaking past the windows. "I must express certain concerns," Veltar began, "about the growing influence of human requests in our deliberations." "Influence?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure I understand." Veltar's crystalline eyes flickered. "Your people have submitted 47 proposals since joining the Federation. All 47 have been approved. This is unprecedented in galactic history." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you suggesting something improper?" "Not improper," Veltar replied carefully, "but unusual. Other species must work much harder to gain approval for their initiatives. The Xanthi have submitted 63 proposals in the same period. Only 31 were approved. Maybe our proposals are just better prepared," Jake suggested, though he doubted his own words. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps, or perhaps there are other factors at work. I would advise caution, Ambassador. Success without effort often carries unexpected consequences." The Xanthi delegate walked away, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He pulled out his communication device and sent a message to Dr. Lisa Chen on Earth. Lisa worked at the Xenopsychology Institute, studying alien behavior and psychology. "Lisa, I need you to check something. Can you gather data on all human diplomatic requests submitted to alien governments in the past 3 years? I want to know approval rates, processing times, and any unusual patterns." Jake looked out at the stars beyond the station. Something was happening here, something that went far beyond normal diplomatic courtesy. The ease with which human requests were approved felt wrong, almost dangerous. He thought about Veltar's warning about success without effort. In his experience, nothing valuable came easily. If aliens were approving human requests without proper scrutiny, there had to be a reason. Jake decided to start keeping detailed records of every interaction with alien delegates. He would document their responses, their body language, and any unusual behavior. Something was influencing alien decision-making when it came to human requests, and he intended to find out what it was. The mystery deepened when he realized that other human diplomats across the galaxy might be experiencing the same phenomenon. If that was true, then humanity's entire relationship with the galactic community might be built on foundations he didn't understand. Jake headed back to his quarters, his mind racing with questions. Tomorrow, he would begin his investigation, in earnest. The truth behind alien compliance with human requests could change everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the galaxy. Jake Morrison sat in his office at dawn, drinking his third cup of coffee while staring at the datapad in front of him. 3 days had passed since his conversation with Veltar, and the numbers on his screen painted a disturbing picture. Ryan Foster knocked on the door and entered with his own stack of files. The young man looked tired but excited. "You were right, Jake. I checked every human diplomatic request filed in the past 6 months. Look at this." Ryan spread papers across Jake's desk. Each document showed approval times, committee reviews, and final votes for various proposals. "Human requests average 12 hours for approval," Ryan said. "Everything else averages 43 days. The longest human request took 3 days. The shortest non-human request took 8 days. Jake picked up one of the documents. It showed a request from Earth's mining consortium for rights to extract rare metals from the Vega system. Approved in 6 hours with 0 amendments. "Here's the crazy part," Ryan continued. "I found a nearly identical request from the crystalline hegemony, filed 2 weeks later. Same star system, same type of mining operation, even similar equipment specifications. How long for approval? 57 days, and they had to modify their proposal 4 times before getting approval." Jake set down his coffee cup. The pattern was even worse than he had imagined. "I contacted Dr. Chen on Earth yesterday," Jake said. "She's been gathering reports from human diplomats across the galaxy. The same thing is happening everywhere." Jake activated his communication terminal. Dr. Lisa Chen's face appeared on the screen. She was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Jake, I've got preliminary results from 12 different human diplomatic missions, Dr. Chen said. The pattern is consistent on every world we have contact with. She shared her data through the terminal. Charts and graphs filled Jake's screen showing approval rates, processing times, and success percentages. Ambassador Kate Murphy on Centauri Prime reports instant approval for terraforming permits that usually take months to process. Ambassador Carl Johnson at the Rim Territories says alien governments approve human trade agreements before reading the full documents. Ryan leaned forward. Before reading them? That's what Carl reported. He submitted a deliberately complex shipping contract with unusual clauses buried in the fine print. The Avian Trade Council approved it within 2 hours. When Carl asked if they had questions about the specific terms, they seemed confused. They hadn't actually read past the first page. Jake felt his stomach drop. Are you saying they're approving our request without proper review? It gets worse, Dr. Chen continued. I've been analyzing alien communication patterns during diplomatic meetings. When human representatives speak, alien delegates show increased stress indicators. Heart rate equivalent measurements go up. Brain activity patterns suggest high alert states. They're afraid of us, Jake said quietly. That's my working theory, but I need more data to confirm it. After ending the call with Dr. Chen, Jake and Ryan spent the day observing alien behavior in the station's common areas. They sat in the main cafeteria, watching how different species interacted with each other and with humans. The results were obvious once they knew what to look for. When aliens talked among themselves, their body language was relaxed. Xanthi delegates gestured freely with their long arms. Avian representatives preened their feathers casually. The aquatic species floated peacefully in their mobile tanks. But when humans approached, everything changed. Conversations stopped. Postures became rigid. The Xanthi pulled their arms close to their bodies. Avians folded their wings tight against their backs. Even the mechanical species seemed to move more carefully. They're treating us like dangerous animals, Ryan observed. Jake nodded. The question is why. That evening, Jake accessed the station's diplomatic archives. Every species that joined the Federation was required to submit cultural and historical information. Jake had never bothered to read what other species had written about humanity, assuming it would be basic biographical data. He was wrong. The files on humanity were massive. The Xanthi had compiled a 3,000-page analysis of human history, focusing heavily on Earth's wars and conflicts. They had detailed studies of human military tactics, psychological profiles of famous generals, and extensive research on human responses to threats. The Avian Confederacy's file was even more disturbing. They had analyzed human literature, movies, and news reports creating psychological profiles of human behavior under stress. Their conclusion was that humans were unpredictable and potentially explosive. But the worst file came from the mechanical synthesis. Their report was titled, Species Classification, Humanity, Threat Level Assessment. The document was filled with charts, graphs, and statistical analysis. According to the mechanical synthesis, humans scored higher than any other known species in categories labeled adaptive warfare capability, escalation potential, and retaliatory probability. Jake read sections of the report aloud to Ryan. Human military history demonstrates exceptional ability to develop new weapons and tactics during active conflicts. Humans show willingness to accept massive casualties to achieve objectives. Human psychology includes capacity for both individual and collective violence exceeding normal species parameters. They think we're monsters, Ryan said. Jake continued reading. Recommendation: avoid antagonizing human populations. Maintain positive relations through accommodation and rapid approval of reasonable requests. Monitor human activities for signs of aggressive expansion. Now I understand, Jake said. They're not being friendly. They're following a containment strategy. Ryan pulled up more files on his datapad. Look at this. The Aquatic Collective has something called Human Interaction Protocols. Step 1. Agree quickly to prevent escalation. Step 2. Avoid lengthy negotiations that might frustrate human representatives. Step 3. Report any signs of human dissatisfaction to Security Council immediately. Jake discovered that every major alien government had similar protocols. The Federation itself had established a secret committee called the Human Relations Management Board that met monthly to discuss strategies for keeping humanity satisfied and peaceful. We're not members of the Federation, Jake realized. We're being managed by it. The evidence was overwhelming. Aliens had studied human history and concluded that humans were uniquely dangerous. Unlike other species that had predictable behavioral patterns, humans appeared capable of rapid escalation from peaceful cooperation to total warfare. What terrified the aliens most was not human technology or military strength, but human psychology. They had observed that humans could justify almost any action if they believed it was necessary. The same species that created beautiful art and music had also created weapons capable of destroying entire planets. Jake found communication logs between alien governments discussing the human problem. They debated whether to accept humanity into the Federation at all. The final decision was to keep humans close and keep them happy, believing that satisfied humans were less likely to become violent humans. They're treating us like a bomb that might go off, Ryan said. Jake closed the files and looked out his office window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human diplomats were celebrating easy victories and successful negotiations, not knowing that their success was built on fear rather than respect. The question now was what to do with this knowledge. Jake could use it to humanity's advantage, pushing for even greater concessions from alien governments, or he could try to build genuine relationships based on truth rather than terror. Either choice would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Jake made his decision. Tomorrow, he would begin testing the limits of alien fear. Only by understanding how deep this terror ran could he figure out how to overcome it. But first, he needed to know exactly what aliens thought would happen if they said no to a human request. The answer to that question might be more frightening than anything he had discovered so far. Jake Morrison walked through the station's maintenance corridors at 2 a.m. He had learned these passages during his first year as ambassador, using them to avoid crowded public areas when he needed to think. Tonight, he needed answers. Ryan, Foster followed behind him, carrying a portable scanner they had borrowed from the station's technical department. Jake had told the duty officer they needed to check for communication interference in the human quarters. It was a lie, but a necessary one. "Are you sure about this?" Ryan whispered. "No," Jake replied, "but we need to know what they really think about us." They stopped outside a ventilation grate that led to the Federation Security Council chamber. Jake had discovered this passage weeks ago by accident. The council met in secret, believing their sessions were completely private. Jake had spent 3 days learning the council's schedule. Every Tuesday at midnight, they held classified briefings about potential threats to galactic stability. Tonight's topic, according to the leaked agenda Ryan had found, was labeled Periodic Human Assessment Review. Ryan activated the scanner and confirmed no security sensors were monitoring this section. Jake carefully removed the grate and crawled into the narrow ventilation shaft. The metal was cold against his hands and knees as he moved toward the council chamber. Light filtered through another grate 20 feet ahead. Jake could hear voices speaking in various alien languages. The chamber's translation system was active, converting everything into standard Federation dialect. Jake positioned himself where he could see into the room below. The Security Council included representatives from the 5 major alien powers. Council Director Zephyr of the Avian Confederacy stood at the center, his silver feathers gleaming under the chamber lights. "The quarterly human behavior analysis is complete," Zephyr announced. "Dr. Klix will present the findings." A small green-skinned alien that Jake recognized as belonging to the scientific collective activated a holographic display. Charts and graphs filled the air above the council table. "Human expansion continues at predicted rates," Dr. Klix said. 17 new colonies established in the past 6 months. Population growth remains stable. Economic indicators show continued development. "Any signs of aggressive intent?" asked Commander Vex of the mechanical synthesis. "Negative. Human military activities remain defensive in nature. No unusual weapon development detected. Diplomatic relations show normal stress patterns. Jake felt a chill as he realized they were discussing humanity like laboratory specimens. Council Director Zephyr adjusted his position on his perch. What about the psychological profiles? Any changes in human behavioral patterns? Dr. Clix manipulated the holographic display, showing brain scan imagery and behavioral analysis charts. Human psychology remains consistent with previous assessments. High adaptability, strong pack loyalty, and concerning capacity for escalation remain primary characteristics. Explain escalation potential, demanded Veltar of the Zenthi Collective. Humans demonstrate unique ability to shift from peaceful cooperation to total warfare with minimal provocation. Unlike other species that escalate gradually, humans can reach maximum aggression levels almost instantly when they perceive existential threats. Jake watched as the alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Historical analysis confirms this pattern, Dr. Clix continued. Human conflicts show repeated examples of disproportionate responses to perceived threats. The destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in response to Pearl Harbor. The total war mentality during their Second World War. The complete eradication of enemy populations during their ancient conflicts. Commander Vex's mechanical voice buzzed with concern. Probability assessment for human aggression against Federation members? Current probability remains low due to successful appeasement protocols. However, probability increases dramatically if humans perceive deliberate obstruction or threats to their interests. Define dramatically, Veltar requested. If humans believe Federation members are acting against human survival or expansion, probability of violent response approaches 97% within 6 months. The council chamber fell silent. Jake could hear his own heart beating as he absorbed what he was hearing. Dr. Clix continued his presentation. Computer models suggest humans would view any coordinated effort to limit their activities as an existential threat. Historical analysis indicates humans prefer to eliminate threats completely rather than manage them. What does eliminate mean in this context? Asked Zephyr. Total destruction of opposing forces and their ability to pose future threats. Humans do not appear to understand the concept of limited warfare. When threatened, they seek permanent solutions. Commander Vex processed this information with mechanical precision. Recommendation: continue current appeasement strategies. Maintain human satisfaction levels to prevent triggering of aggressive responses. Agreed, said Veltar. The appeasement protocol has kept humans peaceful for 3 years. We must continue approving their reasonable requests quickly and efficiently. Jake realized he was listening to the source of humanity's diplomatic success. The aliens had created detailed psychological profiles of his species and concluded that keeping humans happy was the only safe strategy. What about unreasonable requests? Asked a delegate Jake didn't recognize. Define parameters for unreasonable, Dr. Clix responded. Requests that would give humans significant strategic advantages or threaten other member species. Dr. Clix consulted his data. Recommendation is to approve such requests if denial might provoke human anger. Better to accept temporary disadvantage than risk triggering human warfare response. Even if it harms other Federation members? Zephyr asked. Affirmative. Human threat potential exceeds any single member species. Possibly exceeds combined Federation military capability. Jake felt sick. The aliens weren't just afraid of humanity. They were terrified. Their entire diplomatic strategy was based on the belief that humans were barely controlled monsters who might explode into violence at any moment. Update on individual human monitoring, Commander Vex inquired. All human diplomatic personnel remain under discreet observation. Ambassador Morrison on Kepler Prime shows increased curiosity about alien behavior patterns. Recommend increased caution in interactions. Jake's blood ran cold. They were watching him specifically. Any signs Morrison suspects the appeasement? Protocol? Veltar asked. Uncertain. Human psychological patterns are difficult to predict precisely. Morrison has been asking questions about approval processes and making unusual requests for historical data. Threat assessment if Morrison discovers our strategies? Dr. Clicks paused, consulting his databanks. Unknown. If Morrison believes aliens are manipulating or deceiving humanity, he might recommend aggressive human response. Historical analysis suggests humans react poorly to perceived betrayal. Recommendation? Continue normal protocols. Avoid any actions that might confirm Morrison's suspicions. If necessary, consider reassignment request to remove Morrison from sensitive position. The council members looked at each other with expressions Jake had learned to recognize as fear. These beings, representing civilizations that spanned thousands of worlds, were afraid of one human ambassador asking questions. Final assessment, Dr. Clicks. How long can the appeasement protocol maintain galactic stability? Indefinitely, provided humans remain satisfied with their treatment and expansion opportunities. However, the protocol becomes more difficult to maintain as human population and influence grow. Long-term risks? Eventually, humans may discover our strategies. Computer models suggest discovery would be interpreted as deception and threat. Human response to such revelation is unpredictable, but likely violent. Time frame for potential discovery? Current rate of human investigation suggests 50 to 70% probability of discovery within 2 years. Jake had heard enough. He carefully crawled back through the ventilation shaft, his mind reeling from what he had learned. Ryan helped him replace the grate, both men working in shocked silence. They returned to Jake's quarters without speaking. Only when the door was sealed and privacy screens activated did Ryan finally voice what they were both thinking. They think, we're going to kill them all. Jake nodded grimly. And their plan for preventing it is to give us everything we want until we're too powerful to stop. The implications were staggering. Humanity's entire relationship with the galactic community was built on a foundation of terror. Aliens saw humans as sleeping monsters who might wake up and destroy civilization if disturbed. Worse, the aliens believed that discovery of their deception would itself trigger the violent response they were trying to prevent. Jake was trapped in a situation where learning the truth made him part of the threat the aliens feared most. He had to decide what to do with this knowledge, knowing that his choice might determine the future of human-alien relations across the galaxy. Jake Morrison stared at his computer screen for an hour before typing the first line of his test proposal. 2 weeks had passed since he discovered the Security Council's secret meeting, and the knowledge burned inside him like poison. He needed to know exactly how far alien fear would let humanity push. Ryan Foster sat across from Jake's desk, reviewing legal documents and shaking his head. This is insane, Jake. You're asking for exclusive mining rights to the entire Proxima Belt. That's 12 asteroid fields with enough rare metals to fund a small war. That's the point, Jake replied without looking up from his screen. I want to see if they'll approve something completely unreasonable. Jake finished typing and read his proposal aloud. Humanity requests exclusive extraction rights to all mineral deposits in the Proxima asteroid belt for a period of 50 years. All existing mining operations by other species will be relocated at Federation expense. They'll never approve this, Ryan said. The Zenthi have 3 major mining stations in that belt. The crystalline hegemony has been working those fields for decades. Jake submitted the proposal through the official diplomatic channels. We'll see. The response came back in 4 hours. Approved with minor modifications. The Federation would provide relocation assistance for existing operations and compensate displaced miners. Ryan's mouth fell open. They actually did it. Jake felt a mixture of triumph and disgust. Phase 1 complete, now we go bigger. Over the next week, Jake submitted increasingly outrageous requests. He asked for human administrative control over 3 major trade routes, effectively giving Earth the power to tax all commerce between core worlds. Approved in 6 hours. He requested permission for human military vessels to patrol neutral space, claiming it was for anti-piracy operations. The proposal would give humanity the right to stop and search any ship in international waters. Approved, with enthusiasm and offers of additional support. Jake's most shocking success came when he submitted a request for humanity to establish cultural exchange centers on 15 different worlds. The centers would be granted diplomatic immunity and the right to operate without local oversight. Every alien government on the list approved within 24 hours. "Do you realize what you've done?" Ryan asked as they reviewed the approved proposals. "We now have the legal authority to establish military bases on 15 worlds. We can control 3 of the galaxy's busiest trade routes. We own enough raw materials to build a fleet that could challenge the entire Federation." Jake nodded grimly. "And they handed it to us because they're too scared to say no." Dr. Lisa Chen contacted them from Earth with disturbing news. Word of humanity's diplomatic successes was spreading through Earth's government and military. Some officials were calling it the greatest expansion of human power in history. "The Joint Chiefs are asking questions," Dr. Chen reported through the secure communication link. "They want to know how you're achieving these incredible results. There's talk of pushing for even more aggressive expansion, while aliens seem so cooperative." "Tell them to wait," Jake said. "I'm not finished testing yet." Jake's final test would push alien fear to its absolute limit. He spent 3 days crafting a proposal so extreme that no rational government would ever approve it. When he finished, even he was shocked by what he had written. "Request for Administrative Oversight Authority," Jake read to Ryan. "Humanity requests the right to establish supervisory councils on Zenthi Prime, Avian Central, and New Crystalline. These councils will monitor local governments and ensure compliance with Federation regulations." Ryan went pale. "Jake, you're asking to take over their home worlds." "That's exactly what I'm asking." The proposal included detailed plans for human oversight of alien governments, mandatory reporting requirements, and the right to veto local laws that humans deemed inappropriate. It was essentially a blueprint for colonial administration. "If they approve this," Jake continued, "we'll know their fear has no limits." Jake submitted the proposal on a Tuesday morning. He expected it to be rejected immediately or at least to trigger serious questions about human intentions. Instead, the proposal entered standard review process. Jake watched in horror as it moved through preliminary committees and advanced toward final approval. Alien delegates who should have been screaming in outrage were instead debating implementation details. By Thursday afternoon, the proposal had passed preliminary review in all 3 target governments. The Zenthi Council scheduled a final vote for the following week. The Avian Confederacy requested minor modifications to the supervisory structure, but indicated approval was likely. Jake realized he had created a monster. His test had gone too far, and now he faced the possibility that aliens would actually surrender control of their own governments, rather than risk human anger. He called an emergency meeting with the human diplomatic staff on the station. Ambassador Rao, Carol Wright arrived from the Outer Rim territories, and Commander Pete Sullivan came from the Military Liaison Office. Both looked confused by Jake's urgent summons. "We have a problem," Jake announced once the security screens were active. "A big problem." He explained everything: the secret files, the Security Council meetings, the appeasement protocol, the test, proposals that had gone dangerously out of control. Carol Wright listened in stunned silence. She was a veteran diplomat who had worked with alien species for over a decade. "You're telling me that every success I've had, every treaty I've negotiated was because they were afraid to say no?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," Jake replied. Commander Sullivan's military training kicked in immediately. "If they're that afraid of us, maybe we should take advantage of it." The balance of power in the galaxy just shifted dramatically in humanity's favor. "That's the worst possible response," Jake said. "Don't you see? Their fear is based on the belief that humans are aggressive and unpredictable. If we actually become aggressive and unpredictable, we prove them right." Carol Wright understood the implications faster than the others. "It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They treat us like monsters because they think we're monsters. If we act like monsters, we become the very thing they feared." Jake pulled up the status of his administrative oversight proposal. "This request is going to pass unless I withdraw it. 3 major alien civilizations are preparing to surrender sovereignty to humanity because they're too terrified to refuse." "Can you withdraw it?" Ryan asked. "Yes, but that creates its own problems. If I suddenly start withdrawing proposals, they might think I'm planning something worse. Their fear could actually increase." Commander Sullivan studied the approved proposals spread across Jake's desk. Even if you withdraw the latest request, look what humanity has already gained. Trade route controls, mining rights, military patrol authority, diplomatic facilities on 15 worlds. Earth's government is going to want to use these advantages. Jake felt the weight of the situation crushing down on him. He had discovered that humanity's diplomatic success was built on alien terror, but his investigation had made the problem worse. His test proposals had given humanity enough power to actually become the threat aliens feared. There's something else, Jake said quietly. The Security Council knows I've been investigating. They're monitoring me specifically. If they think I'm planning to reveal their strategy to Earth, they might decide that appeasement isn't working anymore. What would they do instead? Carol asked. Jake remembered Dr. Clix's words from the secret meeting. Computer models suggest humans would view any coordinated effort to limit their activities as an existential threat. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. If aliens abandoned the appeasement protocol, they would have to find another way to manage the human threat. Given their level of fear, that alternative might involve preemptive action against humanity. Jake had stumbled into a galactic powder keg where the slightest wrong move could trigger the very war that everyone was trying to prevent. His next decision would determine whether humanity became the galaxy's greatest threat or found a way to build genuine peace with species that saw them as monsters. He looked at the administrative oversight proposal on his screen, knowing that in 72 hours it would either be approved or withdrawn. Either choice would send a message to the aliens about human intentions. Jake realized that his test had revealed more than alien fear. It had revealed the terrible power that fear had given humanity, and the responsibility that came with that power. Jake Morrison stood before the full Galactic Council assembly, looking out at 200 alien delegates who believed they were about to witness a routine administrative presentation. In his hand, he held a datapad containing the speech that would either save or destroy humanity's future in the galaxy. 3 days had passed since his emergency meeting with the human diplomatic staff. 3 days of desperate planning, heated arguments, and careful preparation. Carol Wright sat in the human delegation section, her face pale but determined. Commander Sullivan had returned to his post, unhappy with Jake's decision but bound by diplomatic protocol to support it. Ryan Foster stood at the technical station, ready to display the evidence Jake had gathered. His young face showed the strain of the past weeks, but his hands were steady on the controls. Jake had withdrawn his administrative oversight proposal that morning, claiming technical difficulties with the implementation timeline. The alien response had been immediate relief mixed with increased suspicion. Dr. Clix's monitoring reports probably showed elevated stress patterns in the human diplomatic team. Honored delegates, Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation system. I stand before you today to address a crisis that threatens the foundation of our Federation. The chamber fell silent. Jake could see Veltar of the Zenthi Collective leaning forward on his crystalline perch. Council Director Zephyr's feathers had shifted to the dark blue that indicated high attention in avian body language. For the past month, I have been investigating an unusual pattern in diplomatic relations between humanity and other Federation members. What I discovered has forced me to make the most difficult decision of my career. Jake nodded to Ryan, who activated the main display. Charts and graphs filled the air above the assembly, showing approval rates, processing times, and success percentages for different species' diplomatic requests. These numbers tell a story, Jake continued. They show that human requests receive approval at rates that are statistically impossible under normal diplomatic processes. They show processing times that are far shorter than any other species experiences. They show a pattern of behavior that can only be explained by one factor. Jake paused, letting the tension build in the chamber. He could see alien delegates shifting uncomfortably in their seats, their body language betraying their growing anxiety. Fear, Jake said simply. You are afraid of us. The reaction was immediate. Delegates began talking among themselves in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations. Council Director Zephyr called for order. his voice sharp with alarm. "Ambassador Morrison," Zephyr said, "these are serious accusations. Do you have evidence to support such claims?" Jake nodded to Ryan again. The display shifted to show excerpts from the alien files on humanity. Jake had carefully selected portions that revealed the depth of alien research without exposing the most classified information. "These are your own documents," Jake said. "Psychological profiles, threat assessments, behavioral analysis. Thousands of pages detailing every aspect of human history, psychology, and military capability. You have studied us more thoroughly than we have studied ourselves." Veltar rose from his seat, his crystalline skin reflecting the chamber lights. "Ambassador Morrison, such research is standard procedure for all new Federation members. We study every species that joins our alliance." "You?" Jake asked. "Ryan, please display the comparative analysis." New charts appeared, showing the research files compiled on different species. Human files dwarfed all others by a factor of 10. The Aquatic Collective joined the Federation 5 years before humanity. Your research file on them contains 47 pages. Your file on humanity contains over 3,000 pages. The difference is not in thoroughness, it is in fear. Jake walked closer to the center of the chamber, making eye contact with delegates throughout the assembly. "You fear us because you believe we are unpredictable. You fear us because you think we are capable of extreme violence. You fear us because you have studied our history and concluded that humans are dangerous monsters who might destroy the galaxy if we become angry." The chamber was now completely silent, except for the hum of the translation system. Jake could feel the weight of 200 alien stares focused on him. "Your fear has led you to create what you call the appeasement protocol. Give humans what they want quickly. Avoid lengthy negotiations that might frustrate human representatives. Keep humans happy and satisfied to prevent them from becoming violent." Council Director Zephyr's feathers had turned the pale gray that indicated extreme distress. "Ambassador Morrison, how did you obtain information about classified security protocols?" "That is not important," Jake replied. "What matters is that your strategy is destroying any chance for genuine cooperation between our species. You are not treating humanity as an equal partner. You are managing us like a dangerous animal that might attack if provoked." Jake activated his own datapad, displaying the proposals he had submitted during his testing phase. "In the past 3 weeks, I have submitted requests that no rational government should approve. I asked for exclusive control of major trade routes. I requested military patrol rights in neutral space. I demanded mining rights that would displace established alien operations. Every single request was approved because you were too afraid to say no." The implications were sinking in throughout the chamber. Jake could see fear and understanding spreading across alien faces. "My final test was a request for humanity to establish supervisory councils on your home worlds. Administrative oversight that would give humans veto power over your own governments. That proposal was moving toward approval when I withdrew it this morning." Gasps and shocked exclamations echoed through the chamber. Veltar's crystalline skin had shifted to a deep red that Jake had never seen before. "You were prepared to surrender sovereignty of your own worlds rather than risk making humans angry. Your fear has reached levels that threaten the basic principles of the Federation itself." Jake returned to the center of the chamber, facing the main assembly. "I stand before you today to offer a choice. We can continue the current system where alien fear gives humanity unearned power and privilege. This path leads inevitably to the conflict you are trying to prevent. Fear breeds resentment. Resentment breeds resistance. Eventually, someone will say no to a human request, and your worst fears about our response may become reality." Jake paused, letting his words sink in. "Or we can choose a different path. Humanity hereby formally rejects all advantages granted under the appeasement protocol. We renounce the mining rights, trade route controls, military patrol authority, and diplomatic facilities that were approved not because they were good policies, but because you were afraid to refuse them." The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Jake waited for quiet before continuing. "We propose a new framework for human-alien relations based on honest dialogue instead of fear-driven compliance. Yes, humans are capable of violence, so are you. Yes, humans can be unpredictable, so can you. Yes, humans have fought terrible wars. So have you. Jake's voice grew stronger as he reached the core of his message. The difference is not in our capacity for destruction. The difference is in our capacity for choice. Humans have learned to choose cooperation over conquest, understanding over intimidation, growth over dominance. We have studied our own history and decided to become better than our past. Jake gestured to encompass the entire assembly. Today, I ask you to make the same choice. Choose to see humanity as partners rather than threats. Choose to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than mutual fear. Choose to believe that different species can work together without one dominating the others. Jake picked up his datapad and held it high. I am transmitting complete copies of my research to every member government. You will see exactly how much humanity knows about your fears and your strategies. This transparency is my gift to the galaxy. No more secrets, no more hidden protocols, no more decisions based on terror instead of wisdom. The data transmission began, sending thousands of files to alien governments across the galaxy. Jake knew that some delegates would see this as a threat, proof that humans were indeed dangerous. Others might see it as an unprecedented act of trust. The choice is yours, Jake concluded. You can respond to this revelation with increased fear, proving that cooperation between our species is impossible. Or you can respond with courage, taking the first step toward the genuine partnership that the Federation was meant to represent. Jake returned to his seat in the human delegation. The chamber remained silent for nearly a minute as delegates absorbed what they had witnessed. Finally, Veltar of the Zenthi Collective rose to speak. His crystalline skin had shifted to a color Jake had never seen before, a deep blue-green that somehow seemed peaceful. Ambassador Morrison, Veltar said slowly, you have given us much to consider. The Zenthi Collective requests a recess to discuss these revelations with our government. One by one, other delegates requested the same recess. Within an hour, the chamber was empty except for the human delegation. Jake sat in the silence, knowing that his speech had changed everything. The aliens would either choose to move beyond their fear, or let that fear drive them to the very conflict they had worked so hard to prevent. Either